So, what we got first up today?
Well, I really want to get started on AEW's Revolution because I want to get your thoughts on that. Um, this weekend, AEW had their big pay per view, and it kind of felt like a big blow off pay per view. A lot of the matches that we saw kind of felt like it was the end of the storylines that were leading into it, like Tony Storm versus Mariah May was like the end of a trilogy. Swerve Strickland got his robe back from Ricochet, gave it back to Nana. Um, so it felt like a big blow off pay per view, the end of a lot of chapters. But I want to hear what you guys thought about the pay per view overall, or any specific matches that stood out to you guys.
Well, I think it ended some feuds, but I also think it was a step into a major one. Like this stuff with MJF and Hangman, I don't think is over in one match.
No, obviously this is going to
Um,
go into a feud. It's just a matter of I don't see where it's going. Because typically when a feud starts, the heel goes over,
yeah.
right? Like I'm kind of course this is Tony's book, and I'm confused about half the shit he fucking anyway.
Um, Outside of that, uh, I figured Kenny Omega was going over. I'm glad that he is the IC champion. Not happy that Okada is still the Continental Champion. I would have bet money on Brody winning that belt this weekend. The Tony Storm match was fucking epic. Like they wanted a Hollywood ending, and they fucking got what they wanted. Um, and then I guess separately, I want I want to address after Edgar, you've given your overall thoughts. I want to address the main event and what the fuck that was all about.
Okay. Um, I'm not gonna complain about the pay per view, the matches, the amount of blood or lack thereof, like most people have been. I mean, it's a AEW pay per view. All the matches are, bangers from top to bottom. It was fun to watch in that moment. You know, I got some nice, pretty cool clips out of it, so I was really happy with the pay per view. But the only thing I do have to say, to me, it felt like I was sitting there wondering, like, okay, what's next? So I kind of felt like they didn't give us really like any cliffhangers. They didn't really make me feel after this pay per view like, holy shit, I can't wait to see what's gonna happen on Dynamite. Like, I didn't feel like, oh man, I can't wait to see what happens next
Well,
because
there.
I felt like,
Go
Mhm.
ahead, sorry.
No, I just felt like, like, okay, this is the end of a lot of storylines, what it felt like. But I guess I would have liked to feel like I'm hooked a little bit more. Like, what's gonna happen next? I didn't really feel like that after this pay-per-view. And I think that's where my disconnect with AEW comes, because I'm like, okay, like I'm not really too excited about Dynamite after this. And the main event has another reason why I feel this way, which we'll get into. But that's pretty much how I felt about this entire thing. I mean, Tony Storm, Ryan May, I think that's over with. Again, I go back to the robe. Nana got his robe back. That's done with. Like, Hangman Adam Page beat MJF clean, didn't cheat. There wasn't like an interference. It was just a clean finish. And it's just like, okay, now what?
Well, yeah,
So,
there certainly wasn't like any um like major debuts or returns or anything that would um but it's just like, I mean, unfortunately most of the pay-per-view ended feuds. So there's the only wonder is what are these people's next feuds? So I don't know. I thought the Osprey match was incredible. Um Kyle Fletcher has become a star in the last 6 months from
Mhm.
basically nothing. Um, at least in this country. I apologize. They were all big overseas.
Yes.
Um, but in this country, he's become a star in a relatively quick fashion. And I think Osprey, who has always said since he's come to AEW, he wants the ball. And I don't see anybody else who should carry it right now outside of him. Hey, Richard, what's up, Caleb?
Yeah, so that's where my like I said, what do we all know about, like, when it comes to AEW pay-per-views, they always deliver. The house is always packed. They have great pay-per-view buy numbers. A lot of people, a lot of wrestling fans tune in for AEW strictly for the pay-per-views. But I feel like knowing that, they should really take advantage to try to hook these people to tune in on Wednesday. Yes, it was the end of a lot of feuds, but what's next? Like, give us a little something to give us an idea, to keep us interested, to tune in on Wednesday, so we kind of know where all these feuds or where the show is going to next. But
So
I don't know.
so let me chime in on this one. This kind of comes from the background of having to shoot TV. When you have a blow off pay per view, such as you did with AEW, yes, you're going to end a lot of things. But what does that mean going into Dynamite? That means you have to tune in to see what happens next. What's going to happen with Moxley? Obviously, we know Hangman and MJF is going to be going into another round here soon. So obviously, that's one hook from the pay per view to bring you in, especially if that's your thing. What's next with Swerve? Because now Swerve's number one contender
Right.
for the world title, which means it's now Moxley and Swerve. So that brings you into Dynamite. Don't look at these blow-offs as, these feuds ended, yes. But what happened because of this? Swerve's now number one contender. MJF now has the one up on fucking Hangman, if I remember correctly. Right? Or did Hangman win first?
No, MJF first.
Okay, so MJF won first. So you have these two hooks to bring you into Dynamite. And now they have all this opportunity because let's face it, Swerve's probably going to have a 10-minute promo, maybe a 15-minute match with a 5-minute promo, right? You're going to have MJF go out there for fucking 8 minutes. That's only covering 20-ish to 25 minutes of a 2-hour show. Now, granted, it has commercials and all that good shit in it. But now this is the opportunity of we're going to have MJF speak. We'll have Hangman Adam Page go do a squash match and talk some shit on the mic. And we'll have fucking Swerve go out there and call out Moxley. Right?
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
How about, okay, see, the Swerve Strickland being the number one contender, I completely forgot about that because I've watched a shit ton of matches, long matches. Like, I would have liked to see, to kind of remind the people, hey, Swerve Strickland is a number one contender now. I know John Moxley's in the main event, but maybe Swerve Strickland, maybe they didn't show this. Maybe Swerve Strickland comes out, gets a little confrontation with John Moxley to kind of tell him, like, hey, I'm coming after you. And it kind of like reminds everyone, hey, Swerve Strickland is next up. I completely forgot about that. Like, I don't know, give me a visual or something to make me want to tune in. I think that's like things like that is what I guess I need. I'm not the smartest wrestling fan. I don't know.
All right.
But
So
I kind of wish they did something like that.
I can see where you're coming from, but that's kind of the beauty of the media scrums, post-show media scrums, the post-show interviews that they post online. Because let's face it, anybody that's an AEW fan has one of these. They have a phone. They have some sort of way to connect to social media. And my trainer said it 7-8 years ago when Facebook really got big for independent shows. Social media is your biggest promotional tool. And say what you will about AEW, and you know how I feel about them. They do take advantage of the social media presence. That's not saying they're not going to release anything or they haven't released anything. But today's Tuesday, as we're recording. Tomorrow night's Dynamite. What's to say that we don't have 3 or 4 interviews, pre-tapes that kind of explain what's about to happen on Dynamite, and they post them first thing in the morning. It gives you the full day to build that up. And let's be real. Dynamite's numbers, whatever you say about them, they're consistent. They're easily 500,000. Sometimes they go over, sometimes they go under, but that good average is 500,000, which means that 500,000 viewers are going to tune in regardless. Those ones that come in right at the tail end of the last show going into the next one, sometimes they drop off, sometimes they don't. It really depends on how they build up with the commercials, the advertisements leading into it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we had the same issue with SmackDown before. We've had the same issue with Monday Night Raw when it was on TV. We've had the same issue with fucking Nitro. Like, say what you will, there's always going to be that base of, regardless, you're going to have that base number. And for Monday Night Raw, it's like 2 million. For Dynamite, it's 500,000 to 600,000, give or take. Regardless, you're going to have that. What they need to take advantage of is to reach out beyond their core, find what hooks them. And to be real, WWE is doing a fantastic job right now by bringing in all of these hip hop stars, I guess. A lot of them I don't know personally, but a lot of the younger generation, they know them, like that kid from Jacksonville that showed up on Monday Night Raw last night.
Mm-hmm.
No idea who the fuck he was. The fact he repped our fucking hometown, I'm fucking good with that. So I feel if Tony could kind of grasp the same thing and bring in every once in a while, you don't have to be a big one. I mean, TNA even did it with like Pat-Man Jones back in 2007. Sure. And they brought in Toby Keith when they first started. Like, bring in outside influencers to help build your brand. And as much as I fucking hate saying this, Logan Paul's opened eyes. He's helped the fucking WWE.
I know, it's fucking sickening to think about.
Here's the thing, though. Everything that you're saying, Draven, makes perfect sense. But I'm gonna bring this up again. Some of us have lives. I just sat down through a 4 or 5 hour pay-per-view. When the show's over, I'm done. I'm not gonna watch the media scrum. I'm not gonna go online to do my research to see what's gonna happen next. Like, I want to be hooked during the show.
So let me ask you this. What does everybody do when they wake up in the mornings? They check their social media feed. What's on all of our social media feeds? At some way, shape, or fashion, it's a dirt sheet. What are the dirt sheets best at? Producing that kind of content to have that average viewer come and watch it. We're all fucking guilty of it. So even you as a fan, you have stuff like Dirt Sheet Radio, WrestleZone, some sort of message board for either WWE, TNA, AEW, whatever.
You fucking have us.
Ringside News, like the new, like the dirt sheets. So I understand where you're coming from. If that was like 20 years ago and the internet was very limited in what they produced, but come on, man. We have dirt sheets, we have podcasts, we have wrestling shows, we have wrestling podcasts that covered this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Any wrestling fan has their particular fucking show that they want to watch or listen to.
I would be checking those things, all those things you listed, if I felt interested after the show. That's just me, though. I did check my phone first thing in the morning the next day, but I checked what's happening with the Holy Shit podcast. I checked what's happening with the Snug Wrestling podcast. I didn't go to check. My first reaction was not to go check AEW Revolution reports or anything like that. But that's
well, I mean, I think they could have done, and I'll be the first one to say it. I don't think they ever miss on pay-per-view. I think
no, they don't.
It's all except that one.
I will hold that until the end of time.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We can't really say how their viewership is doing right now. Because, okay, they get 650 on normal cable.
Which I think is about right. I think that's a pretty average number.
On cable,
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But we don't know the max numbers. We don't know anything about that.
Which is interesting. We'll talk about that at a later date.
But I don't know. It's hard to say if their growth is right on. But I mean, you gotta believe that they're obviously their pay-per-view buy numbers are always really good. That I think I don't know. I think they could
I
be
also
doing better, but I think they're doing fine.
I also feel like if they're doing the type of numbers that they're doing for their pay-per-views, I feel like they can do, if not the same, but close to the same numbers on their weekly shows too. I think that's possible, but they're just not for some reason. But I want to get your guys' opinion on the main event. I don't know if you guys want to spend too much time on that because
We
that was
could
another one too that I had a lot of questions about.
we could talk about it for real quick because remember when I kind of fantasy booked that a little bit? I almost fucking called it.
Yeah, you
So-
almost did, and yours would have made more sense. I don't. I'll never understand in the Money in the Bank or in this contract situation why you would insert yourself into a three-way before the match starts. I will never understand that because it's the worst fucking call ever.
Unless you're the white meat former John Cena babyface that always wants to do the right thing. That is when I can understand it. But let's go over it real quick, and I'll give my thoughts afterwards.
So essentially, match was set, and instead of waiting until one or both of them had been beaten down mercilessly, Christian Cage decides to cash in his contract and join the match before the ring starts as a triple threat match. You can't have worse odds than that.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Was it specified in that contract that he won? I don't even know what the gimmick's called at this point. Did it say that at any time, or can he just insert himself into any match? You see what I'm trying to say?
No, I definitely know what you're trying to say, and I'm pretty sure they kept saying that he could cash it in at any time. Yeah, I'm not sure, but if you had to prearrange it, you would call it and make sure it's a one-on-one match.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't go and insert yourself into the worst odds of any match.
I can see where you're coming from on that. Interesting. Anyway, let's kind of break this down. So Christian inserts himself beginning of the match. They have a straight up triple threat, right? Am I correct?
No, I thought it was like towards the end, like almost before the match was actually over. At least that's how I
Sure.
remember it.
Is it? Because
From what I was seeing, he kind of inserted himself like right at the beginning. But anyway, let's just call it like it is.
I was really drunk, so
He was drinking for all three of us that night.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, the end of the match, where Copeland's laid out, Christian's put in the bulldog choke. I kind of saw something there, and let me cook for a second.
Yeah.
So the body language of Christian trying to get to Copeland for whatever fucking reason, right? What if this turns into the enemy of my enemy is now my friend again? And this is how they bring Christian and Ed Cope back together for that final run. Even if it's in short term, even if it turns into a blow off to where at some point it's Christian versus Cope for the AEW title, which would be like the fairy tale ending of both their careers. Let's be honest with it. Now, I might be reaching on this one, but Tony Khan has done some more outlandish things in his booking. So, can we get behind what I'm trying to pull out of this, or am I just looking too much into this?
No, I'm with you. Go on with your best self.
Wolf, motherfucker, wolf. Mm-hmm. So what if we do go that route? Obviously, Moxley's going after Swerve right now. They have what's the next pay-per-view in May?
I think so.
Okay, so it's March now, so they got 2 months to cook this up. What if they go for about 6 weeks of now, instead of Cope going after Christian, it's now Christian going after Cope. All right. And now it takes something. What's a big heel tag team right now? Somebody give me a name.
Yeah, nothing.
I would say the first, the Don Callis family or the Chris Jericho.
Let's go with Learning Tree. I like that. Let's go with the Learning Tree because it's fucking Jericho, and Jericho can get buried in my fucking fantasy world. What if something comes up where it's the Patriarchy, which is Christian's group, and Jericho's group, and now for whatever reason Jericho gets another member, they're out fucking numbered, and he has no other choice but to try to get Cope on his side. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
For about 6 weeks, they keep having Cope deny it, go fuck yourself, like they bring that back or whatever. But something happens to where all members are just beating the fuck out of Christian. All the other members of the Patriarchy are taken out for one reason or another, and it's just Christian getting the shit kicked out of him, right? Mm-hmm. And Cope's feelings, his insides get the better of him, and in a little thing of fury, goes in there, clears the house, right? But he doesn't get back with Christian, right? It'd be like one of those, you know what? We're fucking even for whatever the fuck has happened before. Fucking walks off. They let that cook for a week or so. But Jericho keeps attacking him. Cope keeps fucking rescuing him. Christian says, you know what? Fuck it. I was wrong. Everything I did to you since you come to AEW, I should have been better. Let's handle this as only we can. One of the greatest tag teams of all time. Have them win the tag team titles and then go work Jericho and Big Bill at the pay-per-view. Win over that. Have them go on for about another month or so. Have them lose the titles. Have somehow, you know what? This is my fantasy world. Have Christian become number one contender for the AEW title against Swerve. Somehow beats Swerve. He gets that moment. Because let's be real, Edge has had his moment with world titles.
True.
Christian's only had the one with the NWA world title back in TNA. I don't count the world title in WWE. That was a fucking bullshit fucking call.
Yeah.
Have them two main event.
Nope.
Now, again, this is just me pulling shit out of my ass and fantasy booking. And because I'm a favorite of Christian, Christian's going to go over in that match anyway. So.
So let me jump in here real quick, if that's all right. You are reaching there, Draven, but I was doing the same thing. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. When I saw that Jon Moxley beat both Christian and Edge, I automatically thought, okay, maybe this is how they reunite Cope and Christian in AEW. But again, that's just me reaching, and that's just me hoping. That's just me fantasy booking. I would have liked to have at least a little tease, Edge and Christian chase off Jon Moxley together. Then they have a moment in the ring looking at each other and just like, hey, we chase down Jon Moxley together, and then one leaves. But then at least that gives me something to be like, oh, we might see them get back together. I want to see that. But they didn't even do that. The other thing too, Jon Moxley beat both of them. So are we just going to see Jon Moxley doing the same thing where they just beat people up? They just jump people? Like, that's not going to make, at least me, that's not going to make me want to tune in on Wednesday. But
I think there's going to be some drama with there's going to be some drama with the Wheeler Yuta situation from last week. I still think Danielson's going to make his presence felt during this Moxley run. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they could do that kind of switches from what they've been doing. But do we have anything else needed to be said on this? Because we ran a little long on this story.
No, I think I'm pretty good. What's up, Raymond? How you doing, brother? And let's see, I got old Bubba Sharp. Billy, get off the chat. God damn it. I love you, but this is heel shit time. No, he's smoking.
All right.
I'm straight edge.
Are you good with this subject, Edgar?
Yeah.
Yep.